Hey, what's up? Welcome to DGenEd. That's degenerative education, meaning none of this is financial advice. Just me having fun looking at charts like the chart behind me, which is of SoFi Technologies, ticker symbol SOFI. And so I am recording this on the evening of Thursday, April 25th, after the market has closed, with SoFi being approximately flat on the day, just down 1 penny, closing at a price of $7.59, but going up about 1% in the after hours. And so I am pretty excited to be covering SoFi because they report earnings on April 29th, so Monday of next week. And their earnings call is Monday before the market opens at 8 a.m. Eastern. And I would be happy to stream the earnings call. If you'd like to join, let me know in the comments down below. I'd be happy to host that. But anyways, it came up during Sunday's stream, and I said that I would do an updated chart going over some new levels, sharing my perspective before earnings. And so I've cleared off basically all of the lines that I've drawn up previously, and I've added some new ones. And so here what we can see is this Fibonacci retracement going from the high hit on February 28th and then coming down to the low hit on March 19th. That gives us some levels that we can be keeping in mind around earnings, especially with the close coming up for Friday, the close of the week. I do think it will be important for SoFi to be closing above the 236 here, which is at a price of $7.38. As of right now, we're looking pretty good. But, it's quite possible we close the week below that and showing weakness before earnings. It might not be so great, but one thing that does stand out to me looking at the chart pattern, actually a couple things that are unfortunately a little bit bearish, but of course I could be wrong about these things. One of those things is that we might be forming a head and shoulders pattern here. The right shoulder has not yet been formed, but if this does pull back following earnings coming to this neckline here, I could see price not only coming down to the neckline, which would be coming down to a price of right around $7 a share. But if it does move down to that neckline, it could be carrying out a measured move. And so we would get that measurement by taking a measurement from the top of the head to the neckline and then move that over to where it might be breaking below the neckline. So I'm just going to move it over to May 6th, just kind of arbitrary over there. And I'm going to color it red so we can see. And in a minute, we'll see where that line might be taking us if that head and shoulders pattern does play out. Might not. Might be that we are forming some consolidation up here after this up move, and maybe it breaks to the upside, given that that would be a bull flag. However, what stands out a little bit more to me in the flag category is that we've seen this pretty massive down move followed by consolidation over here, putting in higher highs initially, but as of right now, not able to get in another high to reclaim the 382 level at a price of $7.72. We got a couple closes above it, but we could not hold. And to be honest, this close on April 9th, that to me looks kind of like a fake out breakout, getting a close above that line on the 8th, and then getting a secondary close above that previous day's high. I would think that would confirm holding that level. However, on the 10th, we did close below it, and we did retrace to that neckline. So I do think 772 will be an important level. And speaking of the price action on April 9th, the high on that day was $7.94, being just below the 50% retracement at a price of $8 a share, also being a psychological level. Not only is it a whole number, it's also a round number and an even number. So, lots of things to contend with there, and we were not able to get above it. So I do think $8 will be key. And speaking of, needing to get above and back to key levels, with earnings comes lots of volatility, and I do see this gap to the upside here at $8.58, which was the closing price on March 4th. There is a lot of potential that we could be reclaiming that level, filling that gap here. It is a pretty notable gap. However, I did have a gap previously drawn up a little bit higher as we did have this gap here up to a price of right around 965. But before getting to 965, we first need to fill this one at 858. And so I do think that, is potentially concerning that there are a number of gaps to the upside that have been getting left behind. It is quite possible that will happen. And now that I have zoomed out on the chart a little bit, there is one thing that might stand out. That measurement that I took here from the neckline, that this red line here, it does look like it coincides with a gap fill. It's a blue line that I have on here at a price of $6.05. And actually to the downside, I do have two gaps, one at 605 and another at 548, those corresponding with the highs of May 26th, 2023 and 30th, 2023. So the highs of both of those days, small gaps left behind, but have yet to be filled. It is quite possible that if this is a bear flag consolidation that we're seeing on top of a head and shoulders pattern, that we will at least be filling that top gap at $6.05. And if we are to move to that level, it is quite possible we could cross off the one at 548 as well. But one thing that does kind of stand in between those two gaps right now is this yellow uptrend. I have that drawn from these two pivot points here, going back to December 6th of 2022. And from those two pivot points, I believe the other one, let's see, is based on the low of May 2nd, 2023. And so from those two pivot points, we can see that they did act as support, did get some fake out breaks below them. But, this level here, this yellow uptrend, did serve as support just before a massive up move going up over 100% and then beyond up to, let's see, 144% to the peak hit on July 31st, 2023. So pretty remarkable there. And, I have just drawn that line really based on those two pivot points, has not been tested again. If we do retrace to filling this gap at 605, I suspect this yellow uptrend will be acting as support again. But if we do break below it to fill this lower gap, that uptrend would then be resistance. So that might be a little precarious moving forward. And one last thing I did want to point out is this parallel channel that I have drawn here. I've gone over it in previous videos, but I have adjusted the pivot points so there's just one at the top because it does look like we have been trading above it. I was thinking it might be interesting to move this pivot point up to the high here at 1170 to see how this price action corresponds with that. Maybe we've been within a larger channel trading around the midpoint rather than at the top of this channel. And with that being said, I do think we might be coming back to retest the top of that channel, which could be coming down to a price of like $6.30. And so maybe we could get to that level without filling this gap at 605. But I do suspect that if we are to break below this neckline, if it is to be a neckline, that I do think that gap at 605 will be getting filled. But anyways, I'm just going to adjust this parallel channel just so we can see the top corresponding with this high here at 1170, and I'm just going to adjust that so it is right at that point. And so here, looking at that channel, it does look like we have been residing within this larger scale channel, getting a fake out breakout here, a few closes above, but ultimately getting rejected, pulling back into that channel, testing it again here, and with this recent high at $9.18, that also corresponding with the top of that channel. And so with us being in the middle of it, following this down move, like I said, does look to me like a bear flag, head and shoulders pattern, and I suspect we will be going down to $6.05, perhaps over the course of the next month or two. But, with earnings, it could be a little bit more dramatic, a little bit more volatile, but I also could be wrong and we could see some volatility to the upside to test the top of this channel, potentially to break out and to fill this gap here at $8.58. But, those are just my thoughts. If you found them helpful, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts in the comments down below, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. And tune in Monday morning for the live stream of their earnings call. Should be a lot of fun.